Hello, this is Aaron Maller from Parallax, and this is a quick video demonstration to go over the way the Parallax door library works with different frame types of different materials and profiles. So to recap, it's long since been the case that when we placed doors inside of a Revit model, we were really basically placing something that was just a representation in plan, and it would basically have some kind of generic trim around the outside. Then at a later date, when we got to editing our door schedule, we would then concern ourselves with what was the material of the panel and the material of the frame. And sometimes we would adjust the trim dimensions based on that. The Parallax door library is meant to behave with decisions just being made closer to upfront or edited later without having to go manually do data entry for the materiality of the objects. For instance, when a door is placed from the Parallax door library, these parameters can be either instances or types, but what's happening now is the actual panel type and the frame type are being selected from a list that encompasses a style, which is, are there side lights, are there transoms, is it a standard frame, is it a single rabbit frame, but then also what is the materiality and the profile of the materiality. So similarly, for the panels, you're selecting what is the panel style based on industry standards. Is it a flush panel, or is it a full glass panel, or is it a raised panel? And then what is the materiality of that panel? So in a sense, it works the same way as when we used to edit them in the door schedules, such that if you wanted to switch from, for instance, hollow metal 1 to hollow metal 2, you can simply change this field, which is also editing your door schedule. The difference is there is now not a separate column that has to call out what the materiality of the frame is. There is simply what finishes are applied to the frame. Is it factory finish? Is it stainless? Is it paint number 1? Is it paint number 2? And so on. There's a few benefits to the door library working this way. The first is geometrically, the doors are now more accurate as they get placed in the model. If you're using hollow metal number 1, you get the standard hollow metal frame, whereas if you're using hollow metal 2, or even something that you want to look more seamless from the inside of the room, like hollow metal 3, the change is actually happening in 3D throughout the model. So similarly, if somebody moves to an aluminum frame, they get a profile that represents aluminum, and if they're doing doors on the inside of a building, and they were to call this door wood frame number 4, that also has no offset from the wall, then what they get is an actual interior wood-looking door frame. Now this also means that in their elevations, the doors more accurately represent whether or not they are wood trimmed versus aluminum trimmed versus hollow metal trimmed. Now, there are more benefits than just that, and that is that the frames are driven by these overall parent families, and again, if you want them to be instance parameters or type parameters or even type parameters of the frames, that's all possible. But the head and jamb dimensions of the frame, as well as the depth of the frame, are now optionable for whether or not they're responding solely to the size of the wall. So in this case, if we have a hollow metal 1, which is a standard frame, if we have the frame set to the standard 7/16 offset, which it was on when we started, you basically have a very standard interior door detail. Now, if this wall gets bigger, if this becomes like a 10-inch CMU wall, or an 8-inch CMU wall, you'll see that the frame actually grows. This, however, is user's choice. So there is a checkbox that says we like the ability to turn that feature off, and now we would like to manually control the frame. And so now you'll see that both the door frame's position and location can be controlled inside the door. So we can call this out as a 4 3/4 inch frame. And if you want it to be centered or flush with one side of the wall, you simply have to put in the appropriate dimension to make it so. Now, this has some other benefits. The first is that the plan details and section details showing the doors actually end up graphically correct in the model for plan details. So if you were to tell this particular door that we're not going to use the automatic frame thickness, and we're going to push the offset 3 inches to cover the air cavity in the wall, then you'll see that now if you were to take a plan detail of this area, it would be correct, including if you wanted to put in basically 3/16 on each side because of masonry coursing. You could do that as well. But what's more important about this is that information, including the head height and the jamb width of the frame profile itself and those sizes for the frame depth and the location, are all being reported in the door schedule itself. This means that the amount of head, jamb, sill, and threshold details that you need to carry with you in the project can be cut down a significant amount. And that's because your door details no longer need to carry as many dimensions as they used to have. So a door head detail here is simply referring to the fields that are in the schedule, as is the frame depth. And then of course we're using the detail to call out our continuous caulk and our box beam where required, and so on and so forth. And then basically you can keep details that are referring to what the dimension is of the frame, and you can even have another dimension that refers to the frame offset in the door schedule if you'd like. So you no longer need to keep as many details. For that reason, this actually makes managing the doors a bit easier, especially from a quality control point of view, because you're now keeping track of what is the materiality of the frame, but also what is the frame profile, and you end up with a lot less variations, and you're not having to go, one door by one door as you review the door schedule. Let me know if this doesn't make sense, or if you have any other questions about how it works. I'm happy to send over some samples. Thanks.